haven't met you this year, okay? This is the first time that you'll be seeing my face this year, so I guess Happy New Year is in order, right? My name is Anne Sakore, and in this channel, I love to talk about all the things I love to work with. I love to work with fondant. I love to work with wafer paper. I love to work with cakes. I just love caking it. And this year, we are going to be doing new things. I'm going to be having periodic talks with you, just like I am today. So if this is your first time on my channel and you would love to see more of me, then I think it will be in order to look below and click on the subscribe button, and do not forget to also click on the notification bell so that you know when I post awesome videos just like this one. So what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about 5 amazing ways to improve your cake baking this year. Right, so let's get caking. How are you going to make your baking improve this year? This is a brand new year. You should try brand new ideas. You should, first of all, get out of your comfort zone. Yes, that is the first thing that you should do this year if you haven't done that already. You need to create brand new ideas or brand new recipes for your cake business. Your customers are used to you. Some of them may have gone and you wouldn't know why. They may have gone to places that they have added new things that you are not doing. So this year, get creative. Do something new. Try that idea. Try that recipe. Turn your business around by wowing your customers and even yourself. You know how you wow yourself? When your account starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That is how you wow yourself. Two, plan ahead. Hmm. I know this may sound so, like what you've been hearing, but there's nothing like planning ahead. If you are planning to bake on the weekend, for instance, look at your pantry. Make sure that all your ingredients are there, they are complete. I know I have been there. Sometimes you start baking and all of a sudden you realize that, oh, my baking powder is finished. You see, if you had checked, if you had planned, all this wouldn't happen. And then you start panicking. And of course, you cannot have the same results when you don't plan ahead. Your cake will be different at that particular time. And you have to start calling and saying, oh, so. You need to start explaining things that you ought not to explain to customers. Or let's say, assume you don't want to explain. You decide to discard that batch. And you know what that is? That is wasted. So, plan ahead. Number three, understand your ingredients. Ingredients react in different ways. This year, make that conscious effort to understand how your ingredients work in your recipe. If you do that, if you get a new recipe, by just looking at it, you will know if that recipe will work or not. I have developed myself to the extent that I look at recipes and I know the ones that are good and the ones that are not, because I know how ingredients work in a recipe. And sometimes I may not understand the rationale behind a particular recipe and I just decide to give it a try. Anyway, let's see. Probably there's something I do not know. So try to understand the way every ingredient work in a cake or in any kind of baking you want to do, and then you will make your baking amazing this year. Number four, invest in proper baking tools. I cannot overemphasize this. If you have decided to take baking as your business, then you must buy the tools of the trade, isn't it? Every trade has got its own tools. Invest in a good digital skill. Yes, if you are good with your what is that called again? Um 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 um, anyway, those other other kind of skills, the ones that don't use batteries, okay, manual skills, then fine and good. But this thing, this time and in this time and age, everything is going digital. So why not invest in a proper digital skill? Eh? Just close your eyes like this and buy that one, that expensive one that will last you a long time. You know, when you go to the market, there are different kinds of digital skills. Buy the one that will last you a long time. Just close your eyes and do that. You know, when you have that, each time you want to measure, for instance, 100 grams of flour, it's going to be 100 grams of flour for all the every day. Each time you use that recipe, it's going to be exact, it's not going to change. Invest in cups and measuring spoons. In this time and age, I am surprised when I hear people chatting me up and asking me how many milk cups, and I'm like, hello, milk cups? We have proper baking cups and baking spoons. Get them. They are super affordable. Make sure that you invest in them. Invest in a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Stand mixers may be expensive, but if you can't afford that at the moment, you can get yourself a hand mixer, a good one, okay? Not the type that burns out every second. Invest in it, it makes work easier. Don't stress yourself out. Just try as much as you can and get yourself a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Another thing that I cannot overemphasize is invest in good baking pans. Over here in Nigeria, we use there are popular baking pans that are made from roofing sheets. Yes, as good as they may be, they are not really good in bringing out the real outcome of your baked product. Trust me, I have tested both of them. I used to have a lot of this roofing pan cake, yeah, roofing cake pans, okay? I still have them and I use them sometimes, but I prefer to use the other pans that I have bought. The difference between these two is, for me, I realized that when you bake with this other popular kind of pans, the one made with the roofing pans, they tend to burn, okay? They produce a cake that has the side that is more brownish and it burns easily, okay? But when you bake with all these other pans, it doesn't burn so easily. I think that these other materials are made from materials that help to resist the heat that is brought into maybe your baked bread or your cake or something, okay? It helps to reduce the heat that comes in contact with your cake, thereby making your cake come out more beautiful on the outside. I'm not saying that when you bake with the roofing pans cake, you will not get a beautiful exterior, but the way you get it with this one, the chances of getting it with this other kind of pan is higher than when you bake with the other ones. So invest in your cake pans this year. It's a must. Think about it. Another thing is when you bake with these cakes, I realize that most often than not, your cake comes out flat. I don't know if it's something I'm doing, but that is what I've realized. My cakes always come out with a flat top. Okay, so now we move over next one. Temperature. Temperature, it's so important. Here with temperature, we are talking about the temperature of your ingredients, the temperature of your oven, the temperature of the environment. It plays a great part in your baking. Recently, it was so cold here in Nigeria, especially here in Lagos. We had the Hamatan breeze all over the place. You can imagine that every cake that is produced in this period is going to have a particular maybe dryness problem because the weather is dry. So make sure that you pay particular attention to your weather or to the temperature of the environment when you are baking. So if your cake is going to be dry, maybe because of the environmental temperature, what will you do? Think about it. You should make maybe add a little bit more moisture to your cake so that when it comes out and the weather sucks it out, it still goes back to be the same one, that the same cake that you actually planned for, isn't it? All right, now so let's talk about the temperature of your oven. I always bake at a particular temperature for all my cakes. I personally just decide that it should be at the lowest temperature possible of the oven. Okay, I have an oven thermometer. It's just there inside the oven, and I realize that I think I'm not too good with all these mathematic things, but I think it's always reading 150 degrees centigrades or Fahrenheit. I really don't know, okay, but it's always at that particular point because that is how I want it. So when you are always baking at a particular temperature of your oven, you realize that your cakes are always coming out in the same way because they are always passing through the same kind of temperature. Okay, you don't want to have a cake that is this way today and this way the next day. So make sure that your oven is properly calibrated. I think that's the language, right? Sometimes you have faulty ovens, they just refuse to go low. Okay, make sure that you check your oven if your oven has a problem and it is properly calibrated. All right, so and one thing people don't do is they don't service their ovens, they don't service their burners, they don't service their gas cookers. Make sure that you always do that. Just like a human being goes for medical checkup, your ovens need to go for a service. Call in a technician because you cannot do that by yourself. Call in a technician from time to time to look at your oven, to service it and make it good for use and to check if there's any problem. All right. Always make sure you do that. Now we'll talk about the temperature of your ingredients. The temperature of your ingredients should be the same, okay? Except your recipe states otherwise. Probably there are some recipes that will say your butter or your margarine should be a little bit cold. If your recipe says so, then it's good. You do that. Sometimes a recipe calls for boiled water. If your recipe says so, then fine, you do that. But if your recipe does not say that, make sure that all of your ingredients are at room temperature. Okay, your eggs should be at room temperature. Your milk should be at room temperature. Your buttermilk or sour cream or any kind of cream you are using should be at room temperature. Everything should be able to interact accordingly. Okay, if baking is a science. When everything is at this almost at the same temperature, you find out that they're able to react properly without anything blocking it. Okay, and then you always get the same consistency with your baking. So that is that about temperature. The next one we shall be moving over to is get new recipes by training. You do not learn everything by yourself. Sometimes you need to ask someone questions. Sometimes you need to pay someone to train you. Sometimes you just need to do research, okay? You just need to find out how to do things better because if you don't find out how to do things better, you'll be stuck up in your old ways and you won't know when people have moved on. And sometimes we have so many funny customers, they just move on too and you wonder why they have moved on. That's because you have been stuck up. You have refused to move on. So make sure you get training, 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 research. Follow people that know more than you. Buy, sometimes you cannot get access to somebody, but as soon as you buy that course that person is selling, you gain access, instant access to that person. Why? And the person attends to you because you have automatically become a member of their circle. So when you ask them some questions that ordinarily they may not have replied, they tend to answer now because you have bought their cause. So you are a member of their family. That being said, I have a cake course, Baking Like a Pro. You can ask me and I will give you my hidden secrets. Okay? I have beautiful recipes, tested and trusted. you can ask me and I'll give them to you at a price. So I hope I have helped you to turn your business around this year.